I stood in that freezing federal audit room, watching Chloe flip through the documents like her fingers were suddenly too heavy to move. For someone who always bragged she was 10 steps ahead, she looked completely lost. And honestly, I waited a long time for this moment. She finally pushed out a shaky laugh. "Emily, what is this? Some dramatic stunt? You can't be serious." I didn't blink. "Keep reading." The pages she held weren't just papers. They were the entire story of how she stole my $8.7 million trust fund. The wire transfers, the forged signature, the emails she thought she deleted, even the exact timestamps where she logged into my account. Her face tightened. This doesn't prove anything." I leaned forward. "It proves everything." Right on cue, the lead auditor stepped in. "Ms. Martinez," he said, tapping the papers, "these documents indicate premeditated fraud. This is federal." Chloe swallowed hard. Her lip twitched. She finally snapped out, "Emily, don't be ridiculous. You've always been useless with money. Honestly, you should thank me for taking it. I did you a favor." There it was, the same cruel line she used when she drained my account. And hearing her say it in front of federal officers, that was the moment the room shifted. Everyone knew exactly who she was. Behind me, the asset freeze team stepped closer. And for the first time, Chloe realized she wasn't walking out of this room victorious. But if you really want to understand how we got here, you need the full story. Because she didn't just steal my money, she stole years of my life. Growing up in Austin, people always assumed Chloe and I were close. We looked close in photos. We acted close at holiday dinners. But the truth? We were nothing alike. Chloe was the perfect daughter, straight-A student, homecoming queen, mom's pride, dad's favorite. Every time she entered a room, the spotlight magically followed her. And me? I was the quiet one, the girl who blended into the sofa during Thanksgiving, the kid teachers forgot to call on, the daughter who heard the same line over and over. "Emily's sweet, but Chloe's brilliant." It's weird how you can grow up in the same house, but feel like you're living in someone else's shadow. When my parents set up trust funds for both of us, everyone acted like Chloe would obviously do amazing things with hers. Mine was treated like a backup plan for a kid who wasn't going anywhere big. But I didn't complain. I didn't argue. I went to community college, worked part-time jobs, paid my own bills, and slowly carved out a life that made sense to me. Chloe, meanwhile, blew through money like it was confetti at a parade. Shopping trips, luxury rentals, private parties in downtown Austin. And every time she overspent, she came home crying about how unfair adulthood is. My parents bailed her out every single time. Still, I never thought she would steal from me. Not Chloe, not my sister. But favoritism has a way of blinding people, and entitlement has a way of turning love into greed. It happened the week after my parents' memorial service. I was still drowning in grief, barely functioning, when Chloe showed up at my apartment with a soft voice and a stack of papers. I know this is a lot right now," she said gently, "but the trust fund department needs updated signatures. It's just routine." Her voice cracked at the right moments. Her makeup was smudged just enough. She played the grieving sister role perfectly. I trusted her. I didn't read every page. I skimmed. I recognized some wording, and I signed. 48 hours later, my bank app wouldn't load. I called customer support. They told me my trust account had been closed and transferred to Chloe. When I confronted her, she didn't even act nervous. She just crossed her arms, leaned against her kitchen counter, and smirked like she was explaining something obvious. "Oh my God, Emily," she said. "Don't be dramatic. I didn't steal it. I managed it for you." "You forged my signature," I whispered. She shrugged. "Relax. You've always been terrible with money. Honestly, you should thank me for taking it. You would have wasted it." That line hit me like a punch to the chest. I spent the next few weeks spiraling, crying, shaking, unable to sleep. I felt stupid, weak, invisible. Nobody believed me. Nobody helped me. Everyone assumed Chloe was the innocent one and I was the unstable, emotional sibling. But grief eventually burns out, and anger takes its place. And anger? Anger makes you move. That's when I made the decision that changed everything. I was going to get my money back, legally, publicly, and permanently. I vanished from Chloe's life. No texts, no calls, no explanations. She probably assumed I was broken or too ashamed to face the world. Good, let her think that. Meanwhile, I moved into a tiny apartment near downtown Austin and started researching financial law like my life depended on it, because it did. I watched hours of audits, fraud cases, and signature forgery breakdowns. I learned how trust funds were structured, who oversaw them, and what triggered automatic investigations. I got a junior job at a financial services office, barely above minimum wage, but I didn't care. I needed access to knowledge, not comfort. While she partied in rooftop bars, I drank cheap instant coffee under fluorescent lights, printing forms and highlighting federal regulations. Slowly, things started making sense. The loopholes, the reporting systems, the paper trails Chloe didn't even know she was leaving. One night, while reviewing old statements, I found something Chloe definitely didn't want anyone to see. A wire transfer she had mislabeled, a signature she had copied too perfectly, a date that didn't match her location. My heart pounded. This was evidence, and not just evidence. This was the match that could start the fire. I took everything to a former auditor who worked as a consultant now. I expected him to laugh or tell me it wasn't enough. Instead, he looked at me and said, "Emily, this is strong, very strong. If you want to open a federal review, I can help." My hands shook. "Are you sure?" He nodded. "Yes, and if this goes the way I think it will, your sister is in serious trouble." That was the moment I realized the takedown had already started. Once the consultant confirmed my suspicion, everything in my world snapped into focus. I finally had direction. I finally had a real chance. And honestly, it felt like breathing after months of suffocation. We started with the basics: timeline reconstruction, signature comparisons, and account tracing. The deeper we dug, the more obvious it became. Chloe didn't just steal my trust fund, she stole it sloppily. She logged into my account from her own Wi-Fi in Austin. She sent transfer confirmations to her personal email. She mislabeled transactions with names that didn't match any trust protocols. Every mistake was a breadcrumb she thought no one would ever follow. While she lived her Austin socialite life, weekend brunches, shopping sprees, Instagram stories with captions like "Self-Care Day," I was in a small office piecing together the case that would destroy her lies. I built a binder, then another, then a third. The consultant helped me organize everything into a format that auditors respect: chronological, factual, undeniable. One night around 2 a.m., he looked at the stack we'd built and said, "Emily, she's done. This is a federal case. They won't ignore it." My hands went cold, not from fear, but from finally realizing the power I held. Meanwhile, Chloe still posted pictures at rooftop parties with captions like "winning at life." She had no idea the ground under her was cracking. And then, one morning, I opened my email and saw the message that made my heart stop. "Your request for federal audit review has been accepted." The countdown had officially begun. The days leading up to the audit felt unreal. I went from working paycheck to paycheck to preparing documents for federal investigators. I barely slept, barely ate, but adrenaline carried me through everything. The consultant and I crafted a clean, airtight presentation. No emotion, no storytelling, just pure evidence. Numbers, dates, transfers, forged signatures. A sequence of choices Chloe made because she believed nobody would ever question her. But the most important part wasn't the documents. It was that I stayed silent. No angry texts, no warnings, no confrontation. I let her live her life believing she'd saved me from myself, like she always said. Then the audit summons went out. Chloe called me 5 times in one day. I didn't answer once. She left a voicemail, trying to sound casual. "Hey, Em, I think there's been some mix-up with the bank. Call me?" Then another, panicked one. "Emily, what did you do? Why am I being contacted by federal auditors?" And finally, the one that told me she was spiraling. "Emily, pick up the phone right now." I didn't. On the morning of the audit, I wore my favorite navy blazer, the one that made me feel like I had an actual spine again. Chloe walked in late, hair messy, confidence shaken. She took the seat across from me and glared like I'd personally set her world on fire. She didn't know yet. She had only smelled the smoke. The flames were coming next. The moment the audit began, something inside me shifted. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the weaker sister. I didn't feel small. I didn't feel overshadowed. I felt steady. The lead auditor asked Chloe simple questions at first: verification details, account origins, signature authorizations. She tried her best to charm him, but charm doesn't work on people who deal with fraud daily. Then he turned to me. "Ms. Martinez, do you have any supporting documents?" I nodded, reached into my bag, and placed the heavy binder on the table. The sound it made echoed through the entire room. Chloe flinched. I opened it slowly and let the first page slide toward the auditor, a comparison of my real signature and the signature she forged. He studied it carefully. "This is not even close." Chloe snapped. "She's being dramatic. Emily always overreacts." I ignored her. Page after page, the truth unraveled. Wire logs from her home Wi-Fi, transfers into her personal real estate account, screenshots of confirmations routed to her private email. Her breathing got louder, faster. Mine got calmer. For the first time, I watched her panic instead of me. And when the auditor finally leaned back and said, "Ms. Martinez, these findings appear deliberate," every part of me wanted to cry. Not out of sadness, but relief. This was it. This was the moment I proved I wasn't invisible. "You can't do this," Chloe whispered, grabbing the edge of the table like she needed it to stay standing. "Emily, please, let's talk privately." I kept my eyes on the auditors. "There's nothing private left to discuss." She turned to them desperately. "My sister is confused. She doesn't understand finances. She never has." But her voice cracked in all the wrong places. The lead auditor slid a final document across the table. "Ms. Martinez, based on the evidence, your accounts will be temporarily frozen pending further investigation." Chloe's mouth fell open. "Frozen? You can't freeze my accounts. I have payments. I have investments." I said softly, "You had my money." Her eyes snapped to me, full of fury, fear, and disbelief. "You'd really do this to your own sister?" I held my ground. "You did it to me first." Behind us, the federal agents stepped forward with asset freeze paperwork. Chloe tried to gather the documents, flipping pages like she could erase the truth if she moved fast enough. Then the auditor asked, "Ms. Martinez, do you acknowledge these transfers?" Chloe didn't answer. She couldn't. The silence was her confession. One of the officers placed a folder in front of me. "Ms. Martinez, your trust fund will be restored in full. Additional penalties are being calculated." I exhaled, deep, shaky, relieved. Chloe collapsed back into her chair, staring at me like she didn't recognize the woman sitting across from her. Maybe she didn't, because I wasn't the girl she pushed around anymore. I was the woman who took her life back. The audit ended with Chloe storming out of the building, mascara streaked, breath shaky. I thought seeing her crumble would make me happy, but it wasn't happiness I felt. It was closure. Over the next few weeks, federal reports confirmed everything. The trust fund returned to my account. The penalties hit her finances hard. Her Austin's social circle quieted down. The girl who once bragged about managing everyone's life could barely manage her own. Meanwhile, I rebuilt mine. I hired a financial planner. I started a small business I'd always dreamed about but never had the resources for. I finally felt like an adult standing on her own 2 feet. No shadow, no comparison, no sister deciding who I was allowed to be. One night, while looking out my apartment window at the Austin skyline, I realized something powerful. Chloe didn't break me. She built the strongest version of me. And for anyone listening who's been betrayed by family, here's what I learned. You're allowed to stand up for yourself. You're allowed to fight back. You're allowed to take back what's yours. You don't owe loyalty to someone who weaponizes it against you. If you believe no one deserves to have their future stolen, if you love stories where justice hits harder than betrayal, if you think quiet strength is the most dangerous kind, hit that subscribe button and stay for more stories. Trust me, there's plenty more to tell.